Welcome to the first episode of What's New in Life Sciences. I'm Andy Barrow, the Associate Director of the Life Science Division here at Amoria Bond, and this week's first episode will be focusing on something that's been making major headlines, and that is inflation, and in particular the inflation around food prices in the Benelux and in Belgium in particular. According to a recent report, the rate of increase of food prices actually reached unprecedented levels, in particular in Belgium, which might come as a surprise because inflation actually dropped at the same time. So what I'd like to go into is the numbers in a little bit more detail for you. So food prices as a whole were high anyway, but all were much lower compared to Belgium as a whole. So in fact, Belgium's food prices surged to just under 13% last year, which was an unprecedented high for food inflation. And the first quarter of last year, it was even just under 17%. Luckily, the fourth quarter saw a decrease, quite a large decrease down to 8.3%. So from that dramatic high, there was more of a steady low in the end. The inflation varied depending on the type of food and the type of country, of course. But one of the biggest comparisons we saw was for non-processed food, where in Belgium, we were hovering around 12%, but compared to Germany, France and Netherlands, they were all sub 9%, so it's quite a big difference. So as we've established, Belgium was the highest for food inflation across some of the countries mentioned, and this would vary depending whether it was non-processed, vegetables, oil products, or dairy being the highest at just under 20%, but all was in the range of 12 to 20% inflation, so all of which was still high comparatively to the rest of Europe. Alcohol, on the flip side, was much lower than the actual inflation line, considerably lower, almost by half. So the causes. There's been a sharp increase in food prices, and several reports indicate different factors. So let's jump into these and why we had such high prices. The first one, and maybe the most obvious one, is energy prices in general. During 2022, we saw a significant impact which reached a peak for not only the customer at home, but also for big businesses as well. Obviously that can have an impact with regards to transportation costs, production costs, but one of the other big areas was the conflict in Ukraine and Russia, and obviously the produce related to that and the access to produce, but also the impact on supply chain and global connectivity as a result. Energy prices did stabilise last year in 2023, and as a result prices began to drop a little bit again, but one of the other bigger causes overall was the higher cost of agricultural raw materials as well, whether that was for the factors we just described or wider issues. Either way, those higher prices, then overall we found that there was a higher production cost as well. So all these things combined would have a significant impact on the food industry in Belgium. So 2023, we did see prices stabilise within the energy sector, and as a result, prices did drop, but there was a bigger cause as well. Higher agricultural raw material prices, and then there was the overall production costs that were impacted as well. So these things combined would lead to higher overall prices. Luckily, the good news is, whether it be energy prices or agricultural raw materials, prices have dropped, which have led to an overall stabilisation. In turn, prospects look very promising for 2024 compared to the influx and increases in 2023. So, to conclude, to achieve that sustainability and optimisation, you need the best life science specialists there are out there. And that's where Amoria Bond can help. And that's where our specialist recruiters within the life science sector can help you. That's it for today's episode. So thank you for listening. If you've got questions, you want to know more, don't hesitate to reach out, and see you next time.